Goodbye, May, and hello, June. Folks, I am excited for so many different reasons. First of all, I'm excited to be back. I had a great time in Las Vegas at the Bitcoin conference, met a lot of awesome people, had a lot of great discussions, but I truly am excited to be back here with all of you and our normal program. I'm also excited to really get into what's going on in the market right now because, as I said, the month of May just concluded and it was an amazing month. The S&P 500 gained 6.2%, which is the best gain we've seen on a monthly return since about November of 22. So that is phenomenal. And really what I'm most excited for is to get into all the meat of this particular video because a lot of crazy things happened last week. A lot of crazy things are most likely going to be happening this upcoming week. So I want to give you my official market prediction and obviously call out all the major things that I think you should be paying attention to. So before we get into all that, of course, if you enjoy these type of market breakdowns, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with a friend. With all that being said, let's rock. When the world's largest casino went dingity ding 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 to close out the week and the month, here was the official headline. S&P 500 is flat to close out a 6% May gain as investors continue to look past trade policy confusion. So two important things there. First of all, phenomenal gain on the month, like I said, breaking some of the recent records. And then the second part is, we have a lot of crazy news to get into related to trade policy confusion. So let's start there. The overall market, we are currently trading on SPX at 5,911, which means from the all-time high, we are still down a little bit, as in 3.8%. But ever since this low that we saw in early April, we have a sky-high return of 22%. So looking real good. Granted, not an all-time high, but I'm liking this recovery, and obviously we could get into this in more detail. But for my technical traders out there, this upcoming week is pretty much going to be as simple as watching this consolidation. We have lower highs, we have higher lows. Which way is this triangle going to break? Obviously, that is going to be, from a technical perspective, one of the top things on my watch list. But let's get into what might prompt the breakout to the upside or the breakdown to the bottom side. And it comes back to that policy confusion. Halfway through last week, we got this. Trump's policy tariffs deemed illegal, blocked by a trade court. Obviously, this was shocking. And in the overnight session, when this was announced, the market went crazy. And then we heard from Navarro, Hassett, and even Bissett that, no, we're going to fight it. And all of a sudden, the market started coming back down. And we're at this wait and see point where what way are they going to rule? Trump tariffs faced threat at Supreme Court over rulings that blocked Biden. So from there, in the meantime, they are still allowed to run it. According to an appeals court, Trump tariffs can stay in place for now. So obviously that's the first piece of hot news or hot gossip, if you will. So for this upcoming week, please pay attention to this particular narrative because obviously if you saw the market, it can have a huge impact. So please pay attention to this. I'm not going to try to cosplay as having a legal idea of how this could play out. So all I'm telling you is set your alerts, put this on your radar because it will definitely be impactful to the market. But that is not the only thing. Trump accuses China of violating trade deal, double steel and aluminum tariffs. So on the exact trade war narrative, we have two big developments over this weekend and this week. 2 weeks ago, China was in grave economic danger. The very high tariffs I set made it virtually impossible for China to trade into the US marketplace, which is by far number one in the world. We went, in effect, cold turkey with China, and it was devastating for them. Many factories closed, and there was, to put it mildly, a civil unrest. I saw what was happening and didn't like it. For them, not for us. I made a fast deal with China in order to save them from what I thought was going to be a very bad situation and didn't want to see that happen. Because of this deal, everything quickly stabilized and China got back to business as usual. Everybody was happy. This was good news. The bad news is that China, perhaps not surprisingly to some, has totally violated its agreement with the US, so much for being Mr. Nice Guy. Obviously, when this came out, it just suggested to the market that tensions are going in the wrong direction, not so good for the market. And obviously, this is the other major narrative we all need to be paying attention to. In fact, right before I started making this video, the news got a little bit worse. Breaking: U.S. Treasury Secretary Bissett accuses China of holding back products that are essential to the U.S. industrial supply chain. Once again, tensions not going in the right direction. What's the saying? Bad news comes in threes. We have the uncertainty related to, are the tariffs even legal or not? We have us going backwards with China. And of course, the third thing is there's a renewed fight between the US and the EU. It is my great honor to raise the tariffs on steel and aluminum from 25% 25 to 50% effective Wednesday, June 4th. Obviously, mark your calendar for that. Our steel and aluminum industries are coming back like never before. This will be yet another big jolt of great news for our wonderful steel and aluminum workers. Make America great again. So yes, this does sound good for workers within the US, but once again, it is representing tensions going the wrong way, but this time not with China, this time obviously with the EU. And right away, EU prepared to impose countermeasures after Trump doubles steel tariffs to 50%. So basically they're saying, hey, at least in the short term, we're not stepping down. We're going to fight this, but obviously let's wait and see how things play out once again on June 4th. So that in a nutshell is all the hot news related to Trump's trade war or the drug war, whatever you want to refer to it. But basically last week, are they legal? Are they not legal? We're going to find out in a court of law. We have tensions going the wrong way with China and obviously also with the EU. And that in itself is a lot of crazy news related to the market. But we did get some major macroeconomic reports as well. And the first one was the GDP report, charting the global economy. US GDP falls on larger trade hit. In reality, that sounds pretty bad, but when you look at this, it was actually good when the market first found out of these numbers. They were expecting a drop of 0.3%. Instead, it was a drop of 0.2%. So yes, it's still a drop, but not as bad of a drop as it was. So I think this headline is a little bit misleading, but the very next day, we got actually legit straight up good news. Inflation rate slipped to 2.1% in April, lower than expected. The Fed's preferred gauge shows. This is referring to the PCE, the Personal Consumption Expenditure Inflation Report. It's like the CPI report, but for whatever reason, the Fed does prefer this inflation report over the CPI one. So regardless, it came in a little bit lower, a little bit cooler than Wall Street had predicted, the line in the sand, and inflation coming down. Obviously, that is good for everyone involved. So to no one's surprise, the administration jumped on this piece of information to basically showcase to the rest of the world how amazing they are doing. In fact, they even cut out a clip of our boy Rick Santilli.
The income numbers, really, for the first 4 months of the year, they're stellar. They're really stellar. I mean, I could go back and look at the first 4 months of many different years, really very strong numbers, and you're right. This administration is criticized for just about everything under the sun. I've never, ever in my lifetime had glimpses into the politics of an administration in the form of transparency like this one. Why don't we be, give credit where credit is due?
I have to say, whenever they put Rick on the TV, you're going to have a barn burner of a day. Regardless, Trump obviously trying to echo these words of income, which comes out with the PCE report. It is looking legitimately good. So he's saying, once again, what I'm doing is obviously working. I know this is a political statement, so half of you watching this are going to agree. The other half of you watching are not going to agree. I'm just trying to cover the news as unbiasedly as I possibly can, which is now leading us to what to pay attention to in this upcoming week. Everything there was a review of last week to conclude the final week of May and obviously setting us up for June. So now let's get into our prediction for what we should be looking for in the month of June. And surprise, surprise, the first thing is political. The GOP mega bill policies on the Senate chopping block. Republicans could be forced to drop provisions related to immigrants, AI, and transgender care. So basically for this upcoming week, we're going to be doing a lot of chit chat of what in the world is going on with the big, beautiful bill. House GOP passed trillions in tax cuts, how Trump's big bill could change in the Senate. So basically we're in the legal process of it bouncing back and forth in the chambers of Congress, and they might come to a conclusion. Obviously, it might not look exactly how it is shaped up right now. They're going to be voting on it back and forth. And then eventually, probably this week, it will be agreed upon by both chambers and then punted up to the president himself. So please pay attention to that. But we're also getting an idea that we might be getting even more news related to the trade war. Japan Prime Minister considers a Trump trade meeting ahead of the June G7 summit. So we know that Japan has been a leading country, as in we're kind of expecting a deal somewhat soon. So right here, we have another piece of information suggesting, yeah, they will be talking. So of course, pay attention to anything related to China, also the EU. I'm fully expecting news on both of those this upcoming week, but it does seem more likely than not that we're going to be getting an additional update on Japan. And we could already see it from the administration itself kind of setting us up for some news. Once again, just this morning, breaking U.S. Commerce Secretary Lutnick says tariffs are not going away. So I don't think we're going to get this magical announcement of, hey, whatever country, no more tariffs. but we might be able to stabilize some of these at 10% as long as the right deal is made at the right time and seemingly not pissing off Trump. So as it's been for weeks now, please pay attention to any trade news. And on top of all of that, I am truly expecting every individual trading day to be pretty exciting just from a data standpoint itself. So on Monday, June 2nd, to kick off the week and to kick off the month, we're going to be getting some manufacturing numbers. And then in the afternoon, the chairman of the Fed, Mr. Powell, will be speaking. On Tuesday, we're going to be getting the JOLTS job openings, and we're going to find out about the inflation in the Eurozone. Then we're going to get more non-manufacturing numbers on Wednesday on top of the non-farm employment change. Then on Thursday, we're going to be getting the interest rate decision out of the EU, and most likely they're going to be having commentary on their stance of the trade war. And then to wrap up the week, we're going to be getting the unemployment numbers here in the US. So every single day, we're going to be getting important data drops. And then on top of that fact, we're going to be at random hearing from potential updates related to the trade war with China, with the EU, and even potentially with Japan. So every single day of this upcoming trading week, it's one of those days where you definitely have to be paying attention. And even though it's not necessarily the end all be all, I do want to talk a little bit about seasonality. On the note of seasonality, and I obviously understand that this is not the end all be all, especially when we have so many different headlines really driving the market, but this little upward movement, this little bullish seasonality was a lot more impressive than I anticipated it to be when just seeing this graphic. And in fact, you can see exactly what I'm talking about in the free newsletter. It's in the description below. It's always been free, always will be free. I break down what happened in the previous week, what to look forward into in the upcoming week, all the earnings you might care about, a little cheat sheet for the major macroeconomic events. But this is where I want to get into the seasonality in my prediction, at least for the first portion of the week, where I really think the bulls are going to shine. So on Monday, June 2nd, over the past 27 years worth of data, the bulls have won this 74% of the time with a profit factor of 1.52, as in every dollar spent has returned $1.52. So that's a net gain to be a bull. And here's a look at the hypothetical equity curve you would have if you bought at open, sold at close on the S&P 500 futures market. So yes, that is bullish, but that's not the exciting day of the week. It is Tuesday. The bulls have won this day 81% of the time, 8 out of 10 times. 4 out of 5 every year, the bulls won this day with a sky-high profit factor of 17.71. It doesn't get much more bullish than this. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean it's a 100% guarantee. I'm actually giving you the odds right now, 80%. But look at that beauty of an equity curve. When the bulls win, they win with size. And when they lose, they are just barely losing. And what's better than that is even Wednesday, not so much. It's bearish, a little bit neutral. But then Thursday, we get back to being bullish with the bulls winning 56. But look, in the past couple of years, the bulls have really been dominating. So it's this first chop that's diluting the numbers a little bit if we go way back in the time machine, but more so recently over the past 10 years, clearly the bulls are in control. So I'm particularly excited about the start of the week, but we might have a little bit of a kicker here on Thursday with obviously the big day, the big bullish day being Tuesday, June 3rd. So I'm excited for this and to see how it plays out, especially if we get some of the narrative, some of those headlines also being bullish. Could be a very fireworks-oriented type of a day. That's what I have for you folks. Obviously, a breakdown of everything last week, what to look forward to in this upcoming week, and my personal predictions based on some actual numbers of where I think the bulls might be showing a bit of their power for the first week of June. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know in a comment below. I'll do my best to get back to all of you. And then, of course, we will be streaming tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. bright and early, me trading my own account in a very degenerate manner. So if you want to stop by with a great group of people, I hope to see you there. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the good vibes. I'll catch you later. Peace.